Okay, we're in section 6. Just to go over it again, we're doing the related Sage code. I'm hoping at this point, at least you tried a little bit, all right? And again, for those students planning on moving forward into a STEM-related career, it's important you start to try, all right? Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. So here's the deal. You can go to this website over here, and you can use the interactive CoCalc worksheet if you like. I don't mind you doing that. It's a low bar. For those students that want to install the software, it's much more difficult. I do know from experience, and I've been dealing with students for a long time, that a lot of them can't install the software. They're not at that level yet, and that's going to take time. But I want to point out, you want to put that effort in. And I do post a video online on my website that would go through the installation process for you. But the bottom line is you can just simply launch this, right? Go to CoCalc, start a new worksheet. It does take time, start it up. New Sage worksheet, type in the commands. Remember, you're doing simple things. If you hit return, nothing's going to happen. You got to hit shift return. What happens? Sage is going to try to find a server that's willing to do that computation. You notice it's taking time? Sage is asking someone to do that now. Somebody volunteered to do it, and they said, oh, it's 2. I don't think I'd want to ask a machine to do that, though. Let me close this out. And what I want to do is I want to go to Sage on my computer, right? It's already installed. And I'm going to start typing this stuff in, all right? Now, when I type this stuff in, I just have to hit the return button on my computer. But this is the same command you'll be putting into your CoCalc, right? Return, and then X is a variable. This is just a really good habit to define your variables in computer science. We did that. And over here, you know, I don't want to bore you with me typing. I'm a pretty slow typist, but I did type that prior. But I'm going to expand this. And what are they expanding? X minus 1 plus I. I is the unit imaginary number. Let me show you that. The square root of minus 1 is I. And in Sage, that would just give me back the uppercase I, not the lowercase I that we use in math. All right, so hit that. It expanded. What do I get? You know, x squared minus 2x plus 2. This should look somewhat familiar to you. We've actually done stuff like this. All right, and let me put this one down over here. This is another expansion problem. What are they doing expanding? Yeah, there's factors down there. 1, 2, 3, 4 factors. What happens? Well, I get something pretty nice. I get x4 minus 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 10x minus 10. That's a polynomial degree 4. All right, let's put this one down. I'm defining f of x now. And what am I defining it to be? Well, I'm defining it to be that polynomial we just expanded above. All right, we did that. We expanded. We just defined f of x now. So what am I saying? I'm actually saying f of, right? 1 minus I should be equal to 0. It's going to do the computation for me. It does. I'm also saying f of its conjugate would also be equal to 0. All right, that's what those factors are meaning up there. Yep. I'm also saying f of the square root of 5 would be equal to 0. And it is. I'm also saying f of minus, or the opposite of the square root of 5, is also going to be equal to 0. All right. Now, what I want to do is say it's not bad. A machine can do that, but we're expected to do that by hand. All right. Let me just go backwards through the notes, and I'm going to go back to page 133. Now, the reason for that, in my notes, what I do, and again, we're hoping you're spending a lot of time studying, that you're noticing in the notes, you're starting to see Sage code. And again, we're scrolling back to page 133. So I'm going to go back 133. And what do I see? Well, I'm seeing that for the problem that we've done, or that you've done by hand, number 7, or at least eventually we'll do by hand, that, you know, I have something over here. What do I have? You know, find a polynomial degree 4, and certainly hopefully that looks, I'm not saying at this point it looks familiar, but when you start to study, this stuff looks familiar. So let me just clear my screen, and I'm going to type this in. Reset. X is a variable. Gee, we do that a lot, don't we? And then expand. Now someone says, well, if a computer do it, why do I need to learn to do it by hand? You need to learn to do simple things by hand. And then you need to learn right? You need to learn how to take those simple things and code them into a computer. So when you get to more complicated things, you'll have no troubles with it. All right. Now, what I mean by that, this could be a really difficult problem. I'm not suggesting it is. We certainly should do this by hand. And that's the whole point of the course. It's a really hand level work. What do I get over there? I want to point out what I'm getting over here. I'm getting this, which is what you're supposed to do by hand. 72x4 plus 120x cubed minus 94x squared minus 120x plus 72. Clearly read that, all right? Let's go back a little tiny bit, and let's go back to this problem over here. Find the zeros of this problem algebraically. And we did it by hand, or I should say you did it by hand, all right? So I'm going to say, oh, the zeros are these things over here. Now, so it's just, how would you do that using a computer? Well, we're trying to learn. Let me clear, reset. One line at a time. Oh, X is a variable. And you might be sick of doing that. And it's true. A lot of times people say code is very redundant. It really is. All right. What do I put next? F of X down. What's F of X? It's a polynomial, X to the 5th power minus, plus 5X to the 3rd power plus 4 star X. Now, granted, if I make a mistake, which I did, it's going to come up, and I'm going to show that to you. There's an error there. Someone says, oh, what's the error? Well, you know what? I put down 5x cubed. I can't write that down. I got to put a star down between that. Whoops. Okay. Now, let me point out what I just typed in. I typed in this function over here, which is x5 plus 5x cubed plus 4x. All right, let's keep looking at the code. Solve f of x. The double equal sign means this is an equation for x. And let's see how Sage does. Whoops. And what does it do? It writes down answers. And what answers it write down? X is minus I, X is I, X is minus 2I, X is plus 2I. Well, they're variant conjugates. They're real coefficient polynomial, and X equals 0. Now, if you want, you can plot. Let me put that down for you. F of X. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, I see it. And by the way, when I'm looking at that, it only has one real zero. It's at 0. The other ones are complex. This is the 5th degree polynomial. You'd be expecting to see 5 roots to it. If you want, you can verify those. I just want to go through that briefly with you. And what I'm going to do is f of I, that should be 0. F of minus I, that should be 0. F of 2 star I, that should be 0. F of minus 2 star I, that should be 0. And F of 0 should be 0. What are we doing? We're verifying that the roots are correct. All right, so you may say again, why do I need to learn Sage? Or why do I need to learn a computer algebra system? If you plan to move forward in a STEM-related career, it's going to be absolutely important to learn how to use a computer. And by the way, I mean use a computer not for simple things, but for complicated stuff. We need to learn to do things by hand first. Once we do that, we'll get to the stage of being able to, you know what I want to do? One more. I want to do this thing up here. I want to expand. So I have to spell it right? I'm going to expand this guy up here. And that's x minus 2 star x plus 3 star I. Remember, I uppercase is the imaginary. Star x minus 3 star I. I's uppercase. And let's see what happens. Let's see if they get what they got. And what'd you get over there? X cubed minus 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. You may remember doing this, or at least if you haven't done it yet, hopefully at some point you do it and you learn by doing things by hand, that it's much more difficult to do by hand. But the bottom line is you have to do them by hand, all right? You have to do it by hand, not by using a computer. All right, thank you.